back to Close to Broke, everyone. My name is Kieran, and today we have another fun episode in store. At the moment, we're having dinner, but later on, myself and this gentleman, Logan, are going to be heading over to a casino near me to play some poker. No idea where I'm going to play yet, to be fair. One thing I'm dealing with is that I'm only playing about once or twice a week right now, and I just don't have the drive or the want to go play any more than that as I'm busy with work. I haven't played in a public game in like 2 months, which is not sounding exciting, but we'll find a way to make the game fun. Hopefully we can make some money as well, and we're going to skip 4 hours in real time to the poker table. See you guys there. Today's the first time I've been having the pleasure of playing in a public game, and today, there's quite the exhilarating session in store for us. We're playing 5-5-10, which is a new game that they're spreading here at the Hustler, which is a $1,500 maximum. Let's hop into this very first hand of no, I can't even get my wits about me. My poker chips are barely coming in front of me. In this very first hand, we find ourselves in a $25 bomb pot. It's a no-limit holdem single board variety, $25 each from 6 players. Going off to a flop that comes 10-8-4 with 2 clubs and a diamond. The big line decides to lead out for 50 bucks. Under the gun makes a call with the action over to me. I always find myself having trouble playing bomb pots like this, but I have top pair. That's pretty good. I make the call here, especially because I have a jack of clubs in my holding as a backdoor emergency draw. The button calls as well, and we're going 4 ways to a turn card that is a bingo, bango, bongo, jack of hearts. We now make top 2 pair on a really wet board texture. There is quite a bit of hands to be aware of, or scared of, I should say. There's sets, really big combo draws, and made straights now. So with the action starting off with the same opponent from the big blind, he bets once again for $200. Alarm bells are going off, and when the action is called once again by the under the gun player and the action's on me, I'd be an idiot to fold as we do have outs and we're almost never drawing dead. I make the call here, and once again the button makes a call. We find ourselves first hand of the session, first literal hand that we've played today in a massive pot, looking to sweat the river that comes a 4 of spades. So kind of a brick, but kind of not. If our opponent was betting into 3 people or 4 people or 7 people, whatever the hell this guy is doing, the one thing that can definitely be in our opponent's range is a hand like aces or kings. He decides to bet again for $500. This time out of the gun folds, which lends me to believe that he had himself a flush draw. You guys know I'm not in the mood to fold, so I make the call. The player behind me folds, and the opponent from the big blind confidently shows 2 face cards. Queen Jack of diamonds, going for thin value, I guess. Not really sure. I show my hand down, and it is in fact good. Happy to take that massive pot down first hand of the session. Looks like our upswing is still ticking upwards. In this following hand, we've got a little bit to catch up with as the video starts recording here once the flop is dealt. Under the gun, middle position, the small blind and the big blind all limp over to me. The action's on me. I am in the straddle, and we look down in a perfect squeeze spot with Queen 3 offsuit. Obviously, we cannot squeeze with this hand. We check our option, and the flop is okay as it comes Queen 8-4 rainbow. With the action on me, I just had to check my option here. I don't think leading into the field makes much sense with a hand as bad as Queen no kicker. I'd rather play my hand as a check call. It ends up that is the case, as middle position limper decides to bet $100. Definitely a recreational, as he decides to go massive here, going the size of the pot for a massive, massive bet. It'd be a little too weak to give up a hand as strong as top pair, so I make the call. We're going off to a turn card that comes a deuce of spades, introducing the full rainbow. Taste the rainbow, that's Skittles, right? Action on me, I check. Opponent bets $200 into $300 now. Well, at this point, the jig is up. My hand doesn't feel that great here, and it's really hard to improve to anything on the river and feel super confident about it. All of that being said, I decided to make what is kind of a pretty easy fold here, but happy to get away from top pair nonetheless. Once again, we find ourselves starting the recording a little late into the recording, so bear with me once again. In this next spot, button makes it $30 to go. There's no straddle on in this hand. And we are in the small blind, and we look down at a beautiful ace-king offsuit. I decided 3-bet here a little bit on the bigger size. In a game like this, I think playing exploitative makes the most sense. I think my opponent just has the likelihood to call a little wider from the big blind, so why not penalize him and go a little bit larger, which is what I end up doing. Either way, our opponent ends up painfully thinking about it for a while before eventually throwing the call. So seems like a pretty weak marginal holding. It seems like fairly genuine expression of disappointment in his holding. Either way, the flop comes out queen, queen 8 with 2 hearts and a club, which has now put the pedestal of disappointment squarely on me. Either way, I decide to check here and allow myself to see a free turn card. Luckily for us, he checks it back, and even more lucky for us as a turn card gives us the absolute gin here as it comes a king. I bet pretty small here, actually, going $60 into what is about $320. After a little bit of thinking, our opponent ends up painfully throwing it away, so luckily for us, we're able to take it down. Moving on. In this next hand, we don't have ace-king, but we do have is a suited Broadway. The straddle is on. There are 3 limps to me, and we look down at king 3 of hearts. I decided to throw in the $10, feeling a little more comfortable knowing that I won't get squeezed out of the pot. And we're going 4 or 5 ways off to this flop that is absolutely beautiful as it comes jack 10 8 with 2 hearts here. The action checked over to the middle position player that we were talking about in hand numero 2. He decides to bet out once again, disregarding whole logic here, going for a massive bet sizing, going for $200. If the action were to fold over to me, I actually think I'd make a pretty disciplined fold here. One, because obviously it's really likely that our opponent has a pretty solid hand here. And 2, we're not actually getting the right price to draw at this. Luckily for us, somebody does end up calling in between us, and it gives me a little bit of a better time making this call here. I mean, who am I kidding? I was probably going to call either way. I'm the biggest donkey at the table, but that's neither here nor there. I end up making the call, in fact, and the opponent to my left decides to fold. And we're going off to a turn card that gives me even more equity as it's the ace of spades. And when I check it over to him, he's not stopping the betting. He decides to bet $400 once again. And with that middle position player folding, the action is on me. And I go back and forth, and then I realize one thing. Our opponent not jamming is a good thing. I don't have to call $657 at a 1-to-1 pot size bet. I only have to call about $400 here to have my chance at winning about $1,400. I'm getting over 3.5 to 1 here. Seems like a pretty good spot to just peel one off. The one thing that I can say is that I don't have to jam here as I don't have any fold equity, but moreover, if my heart or my gut shot comes on the river, my opponent is so locked in with this hand that I'm going to get the rest of the money in either way. And if I miss, I can save myself $275 odd by just giving upping the river. Although it sucks as I'll be getting like 1,000,000 to 1 on that river. It's not that bad in a live game, I think. But either way, I end up making the call, and the river card doesn't improve us, unfortunately, as it comes to 7 of clubs. It does bring a 4-liner out there, and when I check it to him, he ends up jamming. But that just goes to show you, I think our opponent was pretty locked in with whatever hand he had. And at the end of the day, if I did hit my card, my heart, or the gut shot I had, I was probably going to get paid either way. No mid-session update for you guys to go over today, but the one thing I do want to ask of you all is to have a very, very happy holiday season. Hopefully this new year brings you a ton of luck and some run good. And more importantly, tell somebody that you love that you do in fact love them. You know, I feel like we as poker players kind of have this like weird lone wolf cold mentality when, you know, we're human too. Either way, all of that being said, if you guys can do me the favor by giving me the gift by liking, subscribing, and commenting on today's video, that goes a really long way in allowing other people that aren't familiar with Close to Broke to see what the heck's going on over here. Either way, in this next hand, we've got some really fun table talk and banner to go over, as it limps to me and I'm in the third blind, and I decide to check it as I'm going heads up or 3 ways with a really bad hand of 8-5 offsuit. The flop comes out 9-5 for rainbow. The small blind decides to lead out for 20 bucks. I decide to make the call. The button folds. We're going off to a return card that comes with 3 of hearts here. Once again, it doesn't improve my hand whatsoever. And with the opponent deciding to bet once again at $35, I decide to just peel one off here. Why the heck not? And the river card comes a deuce of spades. At this point, you can hear some pretty funny table talk.
Finally got a 3, right?
So you check and I bluff, or you bet and I call? Wow.
I check.
I can't bluff, my hand's too good.
Pretty fun hand there. Not a whole lot of money in the middle, but like I said, when I'm out here in these games, my goal is to have some fun, and when we definitely did in that hand. On the very next shuffle, meaning the very next hand, we find ourselves in a big one. The small blind makes it $60 to go. I find myself in the second or the big blind here, and I decide to make the call with queen jack offsuit, considering I am in position in this hand, even though it's a little bit of a bigger sizing. And we're going off to an unbelievable flop that comes queen jack 7. Some even a more really fun table talk takes place here.
65. Perfect bet. Ace is no good.
Ace is no good.
No, man. I've said. Of 2 pair already. Is it raise? Ace is no good.
160. You sure?
I promise you. You can't fold anyways.
One time. I also do one.
Okay, that's fine.
We decide to run it out just one time. The turn card comes a 5 of clubs, and the river card comes a 5 of diamonds, and oh my god, our opponent shows pocket jacks. Oh my word, I guess we were both slow playing each other. Oh my goodness. Yet again, another big cooler, and it's just a crazy, crazy, crazy spot here. Either way, I guess I'm pretty happy that our opponent didn't have more money than he did. Well, looking to rebound after that absolute catastrophe in the last hand, and it looks like, by the grace of the poker gods, we just might. In this next hand, $35 to go from under the gun, and I look down at big slick here, ace king on the cutoff. I decide to 3-bet a little bit on the larger side of 150. The third blind cold calls, and then the under the gun player decides to call as well. We're going 3 ways off to a pretty bloated pot. King, queen, 4 with 2 clubs out there. I don't have a club here. And with the action checked over to me, once again flopping top here, we have a ton of equity. This is a really good spot. I decided to bet a little bit on the larger side for 250, going about half the size of the pot. Unfortunately, the third blind decides to fold, and then after quite a bit of thinking, our opponent from the under the gun position, initial raiser, decides to fold as well. So looks like Christmas was not coming early, as we weren't able to get any more value in that hand. After quite a bit of tanking, it makes me feel like my opponent either folded a hand like ace queen, or like pocket jacks, pocket tens, or like queen jack. So maybe going a little bit smaller might have paid us off there, but either way, we'll live and we'll learn. I wasn't lying when I told you guys earlier. Ace king all day, all night. We only play this session for like 2.5 hours, and yet again, we find ourselves with ace king. The straddle is on. Under the gun makes it $60 to go. The small blind and the big blind make the call. I'm in the straddle, and we have a perfect squeeze spot. There is nearly $200 in the middle of free money. I decide to make it a little bit on the bigger size for a 3-bet of $350. I think in real time, I'm thinking that I want to handcuff my opponents and get them to either commit their stack or just fold here. I think it doesn't make any sense going this massive here. I realize that it makes sense to go bigger, maybe like 250 or 300 is okay, but 350 is just borderline ridiculous, and I think a massive misplay on my end. Either way, everyone ends up deciding to fold, so I've got to show the good with the bad, and if I make a good play, you know, pat on the back's okay, but when you make a bad play, you got to be realistic and be honest about it too. Once again, we find ourselves in a really fun spot with a bunch of table talk. As opponents are folding here, someone exposes the hand 5-4 offsuit. Why is that hand important? Well, just you wait. The button decides to raise here to $50. The small blind calls. I'm in the straddle with 7-5 offsuit. Kind of important that a freaking 5 is folded and my hand is really bad, but I didn't come all this way to sit in traffic to be folding my straddle. I make the call here with the unsuited 1-gapper, and the flop is gin. It's just gin. It always is gin, right? Ace 5-5, absolute rainbow. Skittles. With the action checked over to the initial raiser, there's some really fun banter where I start telling our opponent that we're going off to a turn card in a really odd situation that comes at 3.
That's literally how it works. Impossible.
We're going off to a turn card, comes at 3. This does bring in a backdoor flush draw now with the action on me. I decide to bet $700, going massive. Don't tell me how I plan on balancing myself as a check raise continue barreling range here, because the answer is I have no freaking idea. But my opponent knows it's nearly impossible for me to have a 5, and I'm literally telling him that it's nearly impossible for him to have a 5, and I know that it's more than likely he has an ace. So I decided to really put him to the test, put him to the pressure, and after quite a bit of thinking about the hand, he decides to make a pretty disciplined laying down. He shows me the ace of hearts and throws it away and says that most likely that I had a better ace than him as he had a really bad kicker. Unfortunate for us there. Even with all that being said, even with the 5 being exposed, we weren't able to get any more value. I think that's a little bit of the problem with my sizing. Even with how big I went, I just kind of handcuffed my opponent and didn't allow him to really get out of line with a really good hand. Bad part on me. I don't know, has anything ever like that happened to one of you folks? If you did, I'd love to see in the comments how that really went, because kind of an interesting spot with a bunch of little meta game going on. Either way, we've got another hand to talk about ourselves, so let's hop into it. Let's get the ace-king counter again, because that is going on. As you guys can see once again here, the button decides to limp, and I decide to isolate here to $100 as the straddle is onto $20. The opponent to my direct left decides to make the call, as well as the straddler. The limper folds, and we're going 3 ways off to a flop, out of position to everyone in the hand. That comes king 7-3 with 2 clubs. All right, once again, there's 2 clubs out there. There's a flush draw out there, but we flop ourselves top. I'm not scared of anything here. Nevertheless, these 2 opponents, I decide to c-bet here for a larger sizing, once again to $200. Looking to get max value from a bunch of draws out there. The third blind decides to go all in for less, for $195. Our opponent from the straddler calls, so we are playing for a massive $10 side pot, but quite a hefty one here in the middle. With the action going off to a turn card, it comes the 5 of hearts. So the only draw that I guess gets there is 6-4, but I mean, if somebody has that, all the power to you. I'm never folding anyways. I decided to bet once again for $600, going once again pretty big here, but nothing ridiculous and ludicrous like that overbet we did in the last couple hands. What I'm trying to do here is obviously get value from a holding that consists of 2 clubs. Either way, the straddler ends up making the fold. We'll never know what he has. But we're going out to river card. That comes a 9 of clubs against the all-in player. We show our hand, and he ends up throwing his hand towards the muck, and then flipping over pocket aces. Oh no! There is the slow roll. Well, we haven't played a public game in a while, but there is the old slow roll. You guys can see it from the corner of the top left of your video. A little bit of a slow roll, but all in good fun. It was a good time. The man was honestly a gentleman, so no love lost here. It's all good, baby. Either way, we're going to end up losing that pot. A massive cooler. A ton of them coming out to me today. But luckily, considering how good we keep running, we're getting coolers against people with pretty small stacks. Ace-king versus aces, and that's all we lose. $300? Just gotta thank my lucky stars. I find myself under the gun, under the straddle, and I've decided that, hey, it's time for me to go. Logan is calling outside and saying that he's ready to go home anyways, and we rode together. So in this very last hand, we look down at a playable one. We're like 6-handed here, and I look down at ace-jack offsuit. I decided to raise it up here from what is technically middle position to $60. Only the small blind makes a call, and the flop is ace-5-4 rainbow. With the action checked over to me, I decide on such a dry flop here, why not just check it back? Either way, the turn card comes the 10 of hearts, bringing it back to a flush draw. Opponent decides to lead out for $75. A little bit on the bigger size here, but we didn't check back the flop to start folding, so I make the call. The river card comes out the 7 of spades here. Doesn't change a whole lot of anything here, with our opponent deciding to bet once again, but this time for a massive sizing of $300. I throw in the call, and in fact, our opponent was value betting a good hand, as he had a set of 10. So once again, top pair running into a turned set there. Our opponent didn't have much equity, but hey, that doesn't matter when it comes anyways. A really fun session. I cannot complain. For me to come back to the public streets and to run into a really fun group of guys like we did today, I mean, I'll take that any day of the week. Either way, let's start with me in person and see how we feel after today's session.
Well, honestly, not the worst news in the world to report. I feel like I coolered in some spots tonight, guys. Luckily, early for us in the bomb pot, we won a pretty nice pot, and then outside of that, just a whole lot of 3-betting and taking it down. You guys saw a couple of them. Yeah, not a whole lot to report outside of that. Not a crazy session outside of the fact that I feel like I got coolered, like what, top pair versus middle sets. We had ace-king versus aces, and the money didn't even get all in pre-flop. It was kind of a crazy one. To lose it in the smallest game I'll play is always a good feeling. Not great news for our friend Logan, though. I think he got whacked today in the 2-5 game. He kind of ran pretty bad, too. So a whole lot of running bad for the boys. Not great, but either way, we were into the game for 2K and out for 2016. So, you know, break-even vlogs are never that exciting. But I think today was a little different. Either way, I'm going to go back to playing in hopefully nothing but private games. But look how spoiled we are, complaining about the little things in life. That's pretty much going to do it for me. Car's being pulled up. Hope you guys have a nice day. Thank you guys so much for supporting and watching the vlogs. I'll see you guys in the next time. Deuces, yo. Oh, stay happy, stay healthy. More importantly, guys, happy holidays. Christmas is this weekend. For some of you folks that celebrate it, happy holidays. For some other people, if you don't celebrate it, you celebrate other things, or you don't celebrate anything, celebrate your life. Hope you're having a nice day. Take care, y'all.